Hello, I am Michael Hayes, and I will be your Hayes man for the evening. And this is the fourth episode of the Low Key Loki podcast. Really like to keep things low key on our jet ski. If you want to catch up with past episodes, you can go to xraygames.com. There is a dash in between X and Ray because there is no other way to do it, really. And you can listen to this on buzzsprout.com. Now, episode 4, the Nexus event. Finally. Whew. Now you see, you almost lost me, okay? Next week is the penultimate episode and the ultimate episode after that. So it was about time that things started actually moving forward. As I stated in my last podcast, each individual episode does not have enough story in it to hold my interest. And while I do love slowly revealing mysteries until a big finale, this was pushing it. Seriously. Very little happening in the first 3 episodes of this show individually. Except maybe the first one, because, they had a lot to establish. So it's been a real valley of death for me, seriously. However, the 4th episode turns everything around. I am very happy to say that this episode made me happy. We learn a lot of new information about characters. Characters change and evolve. We get a special guest star from Civ, who was in the first Thor movie as Thor's potential love interest, and whom we did not see murdered in Thor Ragnarok, unlike all of Thor's other friends, who got sliced up real nice. So yeah, more Loki. Owen Wilson is back as Mobius, thank God. We get more in between. We get more interactions between Loki and Mobius, which I like, thank goodness. And yeah, in this episode, by some unaddressed miracle, Mobius manages to find Sylvie and Loki and pull them out of their imminent death at the apocalypse of the Mentis. He puts them all back into interrogation and trial. This time we open the episode with Judge Rainslayer go into the room with the timekeepers. So we know they actually are there. And by the end of the episode, Sylvie and Loki manage to barge their way before the timekeepers, and they pull a Wizard of Oz on us and find out that the timekeepers are just figureheads, very lively animatronics. Walt Disney would be proud. And then another cliffhanger. Quite the cliffhanger, because Loki is pruned. Now, if you're following the Minutemen carry these batons with these glowing orbs at the end. When they touch you, you disintegrate, or so we like to believe. They don't tell you exactly what pruning means, but I have been going with the worst possible interpretation, which is that it's instant death. Now, at first, they imply that this something can only happen to a variant because they've varied from the sacred timeline and created a tangent universe. But then that would imply that the batons would not work on ordinary people who are just living their lives on the normal timeline, or the timekeepers. Then the previous episode, we see Sylvie martial arts up a bunch of guards right before the timekeeper's elevator, and she uses the batons on them, which would imply that all of the Minutemen are themselves variants. And at the end of that episode, we got this confirmation that when the TVA creates its employees, they're just taking people out of the timeline, making variants, and then erasing their memories. It probably makes them easier to control. There's a really funny scene where Loki gets locked into a time loop of his, I guess, worst moment of his life. It's when Civ walks up to him and kicks him in the balls. So yeah, that made me happy. It was nice to like see Asgard again. There's a nice establishing shot. There's some sets. It's nice to see. I really like the first Thor movie, but that's a story for another day. This episode, yeah, things actually happen. Some friends become enemies. Some enemies become friends. Some friends become enemies and then friends again. And then Owen Wilson gets killed. So, yeah, the big story here is that there is actually an end title sequence, which is famous for being in Marvel movies. After the credits, you get a little something. When Loki is pruned, we assume he was disintegrated, but then he wakes up in a apocalyptic city, which might be New York or might be just a bunch of skyscrapers from different timelines that were all like dropped onto a plane. So they're kind of tilted. And he sees 3 other versions of Loki, one an old school comic book version, one looks like John Henry, and one is a kid. There's also an alligator wearing a Loki hat, which is just adorable. As far as American murder logs go, it was adorable. And so, yeah, I finally feel like I was given enough meat for my sandwich in this episode. Now, there's still more mysteries to be revealed, and I'll be waiting, chomping at the bit. I'll be drinking a pot of coffee and staying up real late on Tuesday night to get the delicious revealed to me. Okay, so that's all I have to say about that. Stay tuned for next week, guys. Thanks.